try. I'm all out of gold. I just need relief. They constantly try. So we maybe were together for almost a year, and everything is everything. And you know, I end up getting pregnant. And I really don't know how to explain it, but something deep inside my spirit was grieved. Like, oh, because the things in the back of my mind that were saying, like, oh, I made this promise to God and I keep breaking it. Me attempting to, stop breaking the promise, all failed. Now I'm pregnant. So I'm like, okay, well, it just is what it is. Progressing in this pregnancy, there starts to be some signs that I didn't catch at the time. And not to say we went through some things. We almost broke up several times. But by the time I had gotten pregnant, it was just like, we was locked in. And I just, when I realized I was in love with this man, I was so scared. It made me this was the first time, you're supposed to feel bliss and you're supposed to feel, butterflies and stuff. But I was so scared. I remember the first time he told me he loved me, I cried so much because I'm like, I know I love him too. I'm just so scared to tell him. I'm so scared, from my past experiences to let myself, be vulnerable and, let him know how I truly feel. So I went through all of that. We almost broke up several times. We had our disagreements and, things that we didn't agree on. But in the end, we always would decide, above all else, I want to be with you. So here we are, pregnant and, expecting and, just making plans and stuff. But this pregnancy was different than, when I was pregnant with my daughter that I already had. At this point, she was 5, and we're finally meshing as a blended family. And it was just, some sort of normal at this point. Right off the bat, my daughter that was 5, that pregnancy was relatively easy. I had the morning sickness in the first trimester, but that was it. I really didn't experience no type of pain, no type of extreme sensitivity. But this second pregnancy was, I was very, very sick. Like, the nausea was crazy. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this must be a boy because I feel totally different, Go down through this pregnancy and I'm so sick to my stomach. Like, I feel like I'm going to pass out at certain smells. It would make me so sick to my stomach, more than I've ever felt in my life. To do and the smell of certain, I don't know. The sense of smell is very, very intense when you're pregnant, but it was like on a million. And it was more than just sensitivity to smell. It was extreme. So, end up not being able to work after a while because I would get so sick every single day. So this man is, doing things that I've never had any man ever do. I knew, we knew we loved each other. We knew we wanted to be together. We're having this baby. I ended up so sick that I couldn't work. This man took care of us. This man stepped all the way up. This man had no hesitation. He really showed me something that I should have had standard on experiencing when I was younger. Fast forward, I'm about between 5 and 6 months pregnant. You know, we're things are starting to get a little bit tumultuous because we both thought it was a boy. My daughter thought it was a boy. We find out it's a girl, and their reaction sucked. So the next appointment, you know, we go, and you know, it's an old facility, and they're just like, oh, you know, we can't really see what we need to see. Why don't you go over next, you know, down, you know, across the way to this newer facility where they'll be able, their technology and their implements to be better and whatever. Because I was getting an ultrasound, and something just in my heart just dropped, and I was just like, that's weird, but okay, whatever. And in my heart of hearts, I know that both of us knew something was wrong. You know, I'm worried, but I'm trying not to let myself worry too much. Big and pregnant, I go over here to the other place to get, you know, to finish my ultrasound. You know, I get it done. You know, the nurse is silent. The ultrasound tech is silent the entire time. My boyfriend's asking questions, and she cool? What's she doing? She sleep? The ultrasound tech just looks at us, and then, you know, she never said anything. So then a doctor comes in after a while, and we're just sitting there like, that was weird. Doctor comes in and is like, all right, we got to get you up to labor and delivery. We like, for what? Imagine. For what? Like, what's going on? They're like, oh, she's like, oh, nobody didn't tell you? Like, tell us what? Nobody has said, the ultrasound tech hasn't said anything to us. All we knew is we came over here because your equipment was newer. He's like, oh, well, your baby is no longer living. And anytime this runs across my mind, the anniversary of, anytime I hear about anybody else, anytime I see a pregnant person, it's like, oh, the pain I felt hearing that for the first time just comes back. So now I'm 11, I think I'm 11 years or so. It's been 11 years. And every year I grieve. It never goes away. The experience, the experience of having to deliver a lifeless child, the feeling, the physical feeling, being in labor for days, knowing I would never hear her cry, knowing I would never see her take her first steps. I get to know her sister. Knowing it was unreal. It was unreal. Every day I was in labor, I woke up and realized it was real and cried all day. You never forget something like that. A miscarriage is devastating, but a stillbirth is completely life-shattering as well. And I never thought I would have that type of issue. There's no way for them to tell me why it happened, or how, or when. And this was the worst, the absolute worst period of my life. This was the worst. And here I am, 10, almost 11 years since. And it is never not painful. The father and I ended up breaking up. When I tell you, the combination of thinking this is my person, I'm having a baby, and then losing it all, unbearable. I literally went crazy for a while. But my defense mechanisms that I had developed, maybe 3 weeks later, I went back to work. I put it at the furthest place in the back of my mind. I went back to work, but I still had those seeds. I still had those things I didn't heal from. And the very next guy that showed me attention, I mean, he was awestruck when he saw me. I fell back into the same thing. Needless to say, a part of me just thought and knew this is a consequence that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. All because I made a promise to God. He received it. I know he did. And then I broke it over and over and over and over again. In essence, I chose this man over my covenant with my Creator. That was the consequence of rejection and bad decisions when I was a girl, a young girl. And it carried throughout this time in my life. Here I am. I'm like, you know, I meet this next guy and I'm like a zombie for that whole time until I met this guy. Even after I met, like, I feel like a zombie. I feel like I'm walking around with no soul, with no real life inside of me. You know, we stayed together for a little bit, me and the father of the child. And I will never forget the depth of searching, the depth of pain for not finding God in the same way that he came to me after I promised him, you know, my body a living sacrifice. He never I never felt that feeling again after. But I searched because I knew it was so indescribably fulfilling. and I searched and I searched and I searched. And I went to every church that I could possibly go to. And I prayed and cried out every night. And I would hold this man. And I would, break that promise again, even after. God was doing something so deep inside of me. And I was in pain the whole time. So I'm going through literally death. And meet this other guy, didn't know him very long at all. And I was so detached from anything feeling wise. I just wanted to be loved and not let go. I just wanted God to let me feel him again. Let me know that all this pain that I'm feeling is not because I broke the promise. But deep down, I just knew. I just knew. I almost married this next guy. Didn't even know him for an entire summer. Messing around with him. We weren't compatible. I really didn't even. It was crazy. So it almost seems like this thing is getting worse. And finally leave him alone. Mind you, I'm searching. Going to all the churches, looking for all the prayers. Nobody knows that I feel like I'm dead walking around. And finally I come across this church. I'm still messing with this other guy. I come across this church. My sister and my mom were like, oh, you have got to visit here, and it's so fire-filled, and it's so this and so that. Mind you, I visited every church that I possibly could already. I was done. I can't even tell you why I even went. Like, oh, the youth in there. At this point, I'm 26 or 27 years old. My daughter's between 6 and 7 years old. And I end up going to this church. And the title of this video is He Won't Leave You There, because when you feel dead inside, you don't even perceive or conceive that there's ever a way out. You just either live like that or you commit suicide. I remember begging God, this pain's never going to go away. Why don't you just take me? So many times. Begging him, please. Because I knew suicide was a sin. But had I not known that, I ended up having, before I went to this church that my sister and my mom are impressed, like, please go. You're going to love it. It's so amazing, so much spirit and so much. But I'm drained, I'm done, I'm dead inside. And I remember crying out nightly, please take me, please don't let me open my eyes. Because I'm so hurt by all, abrupt loss. It was abrupt. It was so abrupt. And I remember one of those nights, my daughter came, you know, I couldn't sleep in my room anymore. My daughter came out to the living room with me. And I put some cushions in the floor. She was only like 5 or 6. I put some cushions in the floor and, you know, let her lay down and watch a movie with me while we fell asleep. And she laid down there and she fell asleep. And when she fell asleep, every night there was this inevitable cry that came from my soul, from the pain of having to still function and move through life. And not being able to grieve in a healthy way. There's so much to my story, but you know, so many different aspects of the things I harbored and carried with me. But this particular night, I'm crying silently because I'm like, I don't want to wake her up. And she like sleep, but she sat up with her eyes all but closed. And she said to me, "Mommy, it's going to be okay." And I knew it wasn't her. There's no way she could have heard me. That's the kind of daughter I have. And I remember another one of those nights, many nights, crying out, asking him to please take me. Please don't let me see the next day. And begging with all my might to the point where I have a headache. I don't even think my daughter was home this night. And I would try to drink my sorrows, and I would try to drown, like, in order to forget. And, you know, nothing helped. And I remember this night, I'm begging him, please, you keep waking me up. Please don't do it again. And all of a sudden, I had no lights on in my house. I had no lights on in my house. I'm just in the dark on my couch begging to die. And in the midst of me saying these things to God, not even really understanding who I'm talking to, this light, when I say it's pitch black, no lights outside, all of a sudden this light comes right in front of me. I mean, a light so bright you can't see. And the voice, the embodiment of peace, spoke to me and said, "Peace, peace, my daughter. It's not over." He's not who he's supposed to be in me. I knew it was Jesus. And from that moment forward, I knew the God I was praying to was real. I knew he saw me. But my pain did not go away. It still hurt.